What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the rumors about Final Fantasy 16 being real and being some sort of PlayStation exclusive. And we'll talk about what kind of PlayStation exclusive I think people mean. But this is pretty interesting, right? This is a game that there's been a lot of talk, and we'll talk about this with this game and also Project Athia, which again we're going to talk about in a little bit. So let's just read. This comes from PlayStation Universe, and it takes it obviously from Reset Era, which I believe is where this came up. So obviously, take this with a pinch of salt. It's worth pointing out that the leaker does have a positive track record. They correctly listed the entire lineup of the PS5 game showcase, which he claims was also meant to feature Final Fantasy 16. So that's a pretty good track record predicting the entire thing, right? But 16 is real. It was supposed to get announced in June's event. It's supposedly closer than most people would think. It has some sort of kind of PS5 exclusivity. It was vague back then, but it seems to be full-timed exclusivity now. I have no idea why they haven't announced it yet. So there's a couple things there. One, I don't really like the articles going at it with the whole like it could have some sort of like PlayStation exclusive thing built in. I think just flat out it's probably going to be a lot like Final Fantasy VII's remake, where it's exclusive for a full year. Maybe not necessarily an entire year, maybe 6 months, but obviously we'll have to see, right? But I think the exclusivity deal literally means, or what's exclusive of this game, I think it's the game itself. I think the game will literally be a PS5 exclusive game. Now, what gets interesting, again, now they say that this guy predicted the entire thing. When Project Athia came out, okay, it's that Square Enix open world game, right? A lot of people were saying, what's weird about that is everybody thought that Final Fantasy 16 was going to get announced at that event, and the things with this game, this Project Athia game, lines up very much with Final Fantasy 16. I've seen people still, and people still are saying this, is that game actually Final Fantasy 16? Are they waiting? For some reason, did they announce it basically as a brand new game, but at some point they're going to say, okay, we're going to give you the actual title for this game, and it's Final Fantasy 16, and it's a PlayStation exclusive. We know that it would be a PlayStation exclusive anyway, right? So very, very interesting. I think obviously a lot of people, including myself, right? We've kind of gotten wrapped up in the Final Fantasy VII stuff. I've been playing it for the first time, right? I beat the remake, the first, I guess, part 1, I wanted to call it, right? Absolutely adore it. Cannot wait for part 2. And here we are talking about, okay, well, do we give them 1 year? Do we give them 2 years? Do we give them 3 years to make Final Fantasy VII part 2 remake, right? Or however you want to call it. But at the same time, there could very potentially be a brand new Final Fantasy game in the works. So, look, if this guy says it was supposed to be in June and he doesn't know why they haven't announced it, I can't imagine it would go that much further. We know, and I guess I'll say this, is we do know, based off of what other people have said, that it seems very likely that PlayStation purposely left out things at that reveal event, that they knew Microsoft obviously was going to do something pretty darn big, right, in terms of their Xbox game showcase, and they were holding things back so they can compete with them at a later date. I think Silent Hill, the exclusive Silent Hill game, right, by Konami, I think that's easily one of them. Obviously, we've seen like Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers. They didn't need like an event for that, right? They just decided to do that one day. So I think there are these things that they were waiting on, and then they're going to announce it later. It'll be interesting if they really do have like a Project Athia. If that's really like one game, and then Final Fantasy 16 is another game, that's actually outrageous, right, for PlayStation, right? That would be absolutely insane. But I do believe this. I really do believe that Final Fantasy 16 is in the works. Honestly, there's been a lot of different times where people say, hey, the game is closer than you think, the game's making more progress. I think that's generally just because, well, one, some of these games do a better job of hiding than others, and maybe by the time we end up seeing these games, yeah, they are actually pretty darn close than what we would have expected, right? And secondly, we know development for next gen, for PS5 and Series X, it's going to be a lot faster. They've talked about it before, right? If your development time is maybe 3 years, maybe you can do a game in 2 years now. So the development time is definitely cut short. Again, depends on the game. Some games still will obviously take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Depends on the developer. But I really do think Final Fantasy 16 is in the works. And again, this exclusivity thing, I gotta believe it's just like Final Fantasy. There's obviously something going on there, right, between Square Enix and Sony. I think that probably worked really well for them, right? People that have Final Fantasy VII have it right now on PlayStation. They're only going to have it for another probably like 6 months, right? So that seems to be a pretty good deal for PlayStation at the moment. I can't imagine they would change it for this game. So that's a pretty big deal. I mean, if a main series Final Fantasy game comes out and it's only on PS5, I mean, that's a pretty impressive thing by Sony. Again, that's going to make a lot of people mad, and I completely understand that, right? That's something that I think makes a lot of sense why people would get mad at. But also, again, if you're a PlayStation fan, if you're Sony themselves or PlayStation, they're making these calls to they're getting people. They're getting people that they want to sell this console very, very quickly. In order to do that, you need to give people reason that they have to get PlayStation and they can't get it. You know what I mean? Like, they need to get this PS5 console, and these are all really solid reasons. So I do believe it. I think that if it's going to happen, if there's going to be another, because we've talked about it before, could there be a PS5 event also happening in August? And there's been rumors that very well could happen. Okay, that's fine. Could this potentially appear there if they do one in late August and early September? Could that happen? I think that's something that they could do. I think, again, if you do another PS5 reveal, you show Spider-Man Miles Morales, gameplay, you show some gameplay of these games that are launch games, you show Silent Hill, and then you show a brand new Final Fantasy game, or even if you tell people like Project Athia is Final Fantasy, I think that would be an absolutely amazing thing, right? So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you believe this rumor? Do you think Final Fantasy 16 is happening, is real? Do you think it's a PS5 exclusive game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and as we continue to get more news on this stuff, I'll absolutely cover it. Obviously, if there are additional PlayStation events as these months go on, I'll be covering it, and hopefully, very, very soon, hopefully, right, we'll be able to see this game in action. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.